might be some problem of
हो
connectivity.
गया डॉक्टर साहब, हो गया, ठीक है, इट्स फाइन नाउ.
Okay. So, during our master's degree, during PhD coursework, and during MPhil course, everybody is undergoing a paper, reading a paper on research methodology. But passing an examination on research methodology is something different, and understanding the intricacies of research, and understanding the value of a particular point in it is not that easy. I would like to share certain aspects related to this particular theme. Let us begin with what is research. And Holly's definition is very frequently quoted in many disciplines. It says that research is best conceived as the process of arriving at dependable solutions to problems through the planned and systematic analysis, interpretation, and of data. Now, what is the dependable solution of problem? Problem is something that we are not able to tackle at present. Whatever we have done during our master's degree or during our professional learning so far, if we are able to solve that problem, it is no more a problem. But that problem becomes a problem when we are not able to have a clear answer to it. And once we feel that we are not able to answer it, then we go to literature for searching an answer. It is possible that, suppose I have done my master's degree 5 years back. At that time, there was no solution to that problem. But during these 5 years, someone might have faced that problem, and he or she might have solved that problem or published literature regarding that particular problem. So, when I'm not able to answer that problem or solve that problem myself, then I go to literature. And from this particular point of view, literature review becomes very important, because in social sciences, literature review is a continuous process. In sciences, generally literature review is conducted in the beginning at a particular one point of time. But in social sciences, literature review is a continuous process. But for a doctoral candidate, generally, he or she conducts literature review twice. First, before he or she is finalizing the topic, that is a brief review of literature. Later on, when the person is completely doing his or her study, at that time, the literature review is conducted in the beginning. There is a very good book on library and information science research written by Busa and Harter. It says that literature review is an attempt to identify, locate, and synthesize completed research reports, articles, books, and other materials about the specific problems of a research topic. So it is an attempt to identify, locate, and synthesize completed research. And the purpose is to solve the specific problems. Okay, research topic. When we come across this problem of conducting literature review, we must have certain very clear concepts about literature review. Because when we are not able to solve a particular problem, that problem might be tackled in literature. Again, the literature review is seen from different angles by social scientists and scientists. Because for scientists, the phenomena is generally universal in nature. The problem is solved in United States can be considered to be solved for everyone, once and not for all. But in social sciences, even if the problem has been solved in some different setting, it is still a valid problem for us. So, in sciences, literature review is conducted only once before embarking on the actual study. But in social sciences, literature review is a continuous process from the beginning of that identification of problem, specific problem, up to the writing of report. And in certain cases, even if we have completed our report and we come across a study related to our topic, we even incorporate that study at that. So for social sciences, this is possible because one particular reason that in social sciences, what happens, uh, our social phenomena is society specific or a particular segment specific. Suppose a study has been conducted on information behavior of students of Delhi University. The same study, findings of that same study may not be valid for the information behavior of students of some famous place in in West Bengal. So even in same city, like in Delhi, the information behavior of students of JNU may not be same. That is the same as information behavior of students of Jamia Millia Islamia, of students of university. So even if a particular study has been conducted in a different setting, if there is something different, if there is even some aspect is different, it becomes a justifiable topic for research in social science. So we go on continuing accumulating literature from the day one up to last date because it enhances our understanding of that topic. Literature review is not only this. Literature review has many other aspects also. A general understanding of purpose of literature review when we look into it. In case of some theoretical topics, one of the purpose of literature review is to delimit and define the problem. This type of problem arises generally in the beginning of a new concept, in the beginning of a new subject, in the beginning of a new idea. When people have different opinion about it. In 30s and 40s, people were having different opinion about relationship between uh, information service and reference service. Some people were having the concept that reference service was broader concept and information service was subordinate to it. Whereas others were saying that information service was broader and reference service was subordinate to it. So when there is some sort of terminological turmoil or the concept is not very clear, that is one of the purpose of literature review, conducting literature review, is to define and delimit that particular. Another purpose is the historical background of the problem. Uh, no problem comes into existence all of a sudden. There might be some background to it. In certain cases, if the concept is new one, we can start our literature review right from the beginning. We can say how that problem has progressed so far. In the cases like information behavior, we've been conducting information behavior studies for more than half a century. And we are restricting our literature review to only 5 years. During these 5 years also, there might be some changes might have occurred in this concept. Another aspect is identifying theoretical perspective. This is very, very important. In librarian information science, I feel that this is the most neglected area. Uh, every study may not lead to a particular theory. This is true. But maybe in some way or the other contributing towards development of a theory. And this aspect in librarian information science research, I have seen that this is perhaps the most neglected area. Because people are not looking at this higher aspect. And this is not only a higher level of generalization. This reminds me to uh, they say the concept given by Martin in sociology. He talked of theories of middle range in early 20th century when behavioral revolution was in full swing and everybody was trying to make social sciences more and more scientific. Then Merton proposed that concept of theories of middle range, that when everybody is studying at micro level, everybody is doing micro studies, then compiling the results and finding out some common features in the results of different studies conducted at different places. Suppose someone is conducting a study in Kurukshetra universities, other person is conducting in Punjab University on the same topic. The third person is conducting in Delhi University. So in this way, if there are substantial number of studies conducted on information behavior of students throughout India, then someone can compile all those studies and find out, try to find out some common features, some common theoretical considerations out of it. And if the person is able to develop a theory, then that theory will be called a theory of middle range. I think that type of generalization is generally not done, even if some general feature is identified in our literature review after conducting literature review. It is at the minimum level. We don't go beyond it. Nobody is looking beyond that. This theoretical perspective identification at lower level helps us in different ways. And one of those things is when we are um, finalizing our hypothesis, because hypothesis cannot be formulated in vacuum. On the basis of our understanding of literature, on the basis of our understanding of literature, we formulate a hypothesis. So this literature review brings before us certain salient features about various studies conducted in different settings. And those studies, if they have a particular type of results, on the basis of their results, we can also formulate our hypothesis that in our study, a similar result may be found out. Another aspect is finding uh, significant studies. Now, significant studies, uh, all research is not of same level. All research is not very quality research. Generally, it is considered that seminal research is conducted once in decades or sometimes in centuries in certain fields. In a very fast growing subject, it may be once in a few days, no, sorry, once in a few years. But seminal research is very rare. Then there are some studies which are very, very significant. They open a new perspective. And those studies should be considered as path-breaking studies. Such studies can be considered of highest level. There are certain studies which are replicating the study conducted by someone else. And certain studies are neither very good, they are replication, they are not properly conducted, they are not properly reported. So all type of literature is there. One of the important purpose of literature review is to identify the most significant studies, such studies which help us in finding out the crux presented by that literature. Such studies should be presented in such a way that anyone interested in that subject read this literature. Then there are some studies which can be given only a passing reference, that such studies, these studies were also conducted on this topic. These studies are good, but they are simply replication of some significant study. So identification of very significant studies from the point of view of a doctoral research candidate, uh, it is very important that from your topic, from the point of view of your topic, you have to identify certain important studies, and findings of those studies you will be comparing with your own findings. When you complete your study, at that time you will be comparing your results with results of those studies. So all the studies are not comparable. So after conducting this particular literature review, you are able to identify 2, 4, 6 such studies which you might be using for comparison during final report writing of your study. Another important feature is showing familiarity with uh, research in that field. For particularly doctoral students, this is an important aspect. Let me say one example. When I was doing my MPhil, I went to a particular librarian for getting my questionnaire filled. That person, after reading the questionnaire, asked me certain questions. And since I had, during literature review, I had reviewed his study. He had written a paper, a research paper on that particular topic, and I had reviewed that paper. So I readily accepted that he had written a paper, and these things were there. And that person was so happy that he helped me in conducting my survey and finding I am questionnaires filled up from some other librarians. So during the course of your study, if someone is already working on that field, he or she might be asking some questions. And if the person is satisfied that you know the field, then the person may be quite helpful. Otherwise also, this is a practical application which I was just showing you. Uh, in general also, you must be familiar with research in that particular field, because at the time of your viva, you have to answer many questions related to such type of areas. Last but not least, these are not all the purposes. For a particular study purpose may be different. Last but not least is avoid duplication. Justify your study. And this is the most important thing required at doctoral level. After conducting all literature review, you arrive at the last conclusion that no study has been conducted on your topic, and you can uh, conduct a study, justifiably conduct a study on this topic. So these are some of the purposes which I have discussed here. Uh, Next slide is
अब प्लीज स्टार्ट करके देख लीजिए प्रोफेसर जोशी.
I don't know what problem has.
हैंग तो नहीं हो गया? आप इसको शेयर करना बंद कर दीजिए, दोबारा शेयर करके देख लीजिए.
Again, share.
In the meantime, may I request the participants to turn off the video?
Yes. Now, let us
जी.
briefly discuss
ठीक है.
the
Fine.
types of reviews.
Yeah, it's fine.
Broadly, there are two different types, and these are two extremes. No study is purely descriptive, no study is purely critical. But literature review are generally put under these two broad categories, either descriptive or critical. All the students generally who are doing their doctoral work, they are writing descriptive reviews, because critical review writing is not very easy task. In case of critical reviews, you have to be very critical. You have to be in the forefront of knowledge. You must know every ins and outs of that particular city. So most of these reviews are descriptive reviews, and descriptive reviews may be at the state of the art. They may be presented in different ways. State of the art report, which is generally presenting information of current status. So state of the art report presents information of present status. What is the current state of affairs, current state of ideas, current state of knowledge, current state of things in that particular subject. This is again a descriptive review. Trend report, it is also a descriptive review, but it presents information in a different way. It identifies a particular trend, like in 1880s and 90s, computerization or automation were very popular topics for writing trend reports. Another one is annual review. Annual reviews are of a different nature. You may have review of literature published during a particular year, or it may be published in an annual review publication, but it may cover a longer period. Then reviews may be presented in two ways, either as a full document or as part of a document. For doctoral students, it is a part of a document. But in certain cases, review publications, there are some review journals, generally the journals which are starting with the title advances in progress in review of. This type of publications are generally full review publications, and sometimes reviews are published in the form of monographs. They may be some state of the art report, some trend report, but most of the reviews are part of a particular document, and in all research studies they are presented as part of a document. Although I wanted to skip it, but later on I thought that this is very important concept and I should definitely cover it. In 1958, International Conference of on Scientific Information, Dennis Brunning presented a paper, and therein he said that among all his respondents, there was near unanimity about qualities of a good review. I thought I must share these qualities of a good review with you. Of course, expert writer. I'm not sure whether every doctoral student is an expert writer, but definitely A doctoral student knows much better than other persons on that particular subject. Critical approach. Uh, just now we have discussed critical review, but critical approach, even if you are doing a descriptive review, you should have critical approach. Otherwise, these days, so many uh, very poor quality journals, predatory journals are being published. They are covering literature of very poor quality. You cannot include everything in your review just because it is a research paper. So, some sort of critical appraisal is to be there. Of course, critical analysis of a very high level is conducted by for a critical review. But for descriptive review also some sort of criticism is to be applied. Another part is comprehensiveness, and this is the very important issue that I want to discuss with you, because I have seen in Indian doctoral studies, students generally cover whatever they are able to get hold of. They don't cover what should be covered. They cover what they are able to get hold of only. It should be comprehensive from the point of view of the subject. It should cover whatever is required by the subject. Means all the facets of that topic should be represented in your literature review. But I see that in most of the cases, what happens, they cover certain aspects on which they are easily able to find some literature. Certain aspects which are not easily found out, they don't try to cover that type of literature. This approach should not be there. So you have to cover every facet of your problem. And clarity and balance is very important. Out of proportion, you cannot present a particular facet. Even if there is some more literature on that facet, you have to be judicious in selection so that only representative studies are covered in it. Then good bibliography. This is very important, and almost all uh, library professionals are aware about it. But this good concept is a relative concept. I don't think that a particular number can be good. A particular number cannot be said that this is sufficient number for doctoral studies. Someone says, sir, how many studies to be reviewed? You cannot have a straightforward answer. If you are getting sufficient literature, you can have more than 100 studies. If you are not getting sufficient literature, you can have only 10, 20, 30 studies. It depends on the topic. It depends on the requirement of the topic. So a good bibliography is whatever you have been able to compile after making all possible effort on that particular topic. Then that is a good bibliography. Synopsis and use of table where suitable. Synopsis is definitely required. That issue we will be discussing later on. But your study should be structured. Your review should be structured. It should not be haphazard. At a structured aspect, we will be discussing. Now, let us come to sources of literature review. What sources should be included? Again, on this aspect, no clear guideline can be given. It depends on topic to topic. It depends on subject to subject. Ultimately, a doctoral student has to decide this issue in consultation with the supervisor. Here, the role of supervisor becomes very important. In fact, wherever there is some sort of discussion, role of supervisor comes in. In general, what we prefer is research. based studies. All the studies which have been reported based on research. There may be theses and dissertations, there may be patents, research reports, seminar or conference papers. But if the need of the topic requires, then you can include some books, descriptive papers, opinion papers also. We cannot have a clear demarcation that this will not be covered, this will be covered. Even if there is no literature, in that case, you can have personal correspondence, you can have blogs, you can cite even lectures, whatever is there, you can use it. But if there is sufficient literature, sufficient research-based literature, then including descriptive papers or opinion-based papers is not required. Well, once you have decided what is to be included, then next aspect is search. So far, search is concerned. One of the webinar presented by Dr. Pujar in this webinar series was quite useful from this angle. He had very clearly described many sources through which we can find appropriate literature. So I'm not going in that detail, but from the point of view of a literature review, how we should go about it, I'm briefly trying to discuss it, that aspect. Before you start literature search, you have to delimit the scope of your. Yes. Scope of your literature search. What type of documents you have to include, on which particular areas you will be including, for which time period you will be including literature on which languages you are going to. If the demand of that topic requires, you may have some other limiting factors also. And all topics don't need only literature search in electronic resources. In certain cases, if your topic is related to purely historical aspects, then maybe you are finding maximum literature in print form, particularly on a particular area where literature is not digitized so far to a great extent. Another important issue is that today we have a wide array of tools available to search for literature. These initial three tools, Web of Science, Scopus, and Google Scholar. Everybody is aware about these. Then International Bibliography of Social Sciences, in the field of social sciences. Indian Citation Index, if your topic is more related to Indian topics, then Indian literature will be indexed in its Indian Science Abstracts. Then there are many bibliographic and full text databases for books, topics, union catalogs, institutional repositories. There, one cannot say that you have to search this particular source. It depends on your topic. If your topic requires, then you can decide that these sources I will be covering. There is wide duplication in these different sources. In Web of Science and Scopus, even Google Scholar, you will see that more than half of the literature is available in all these three sources. But definitely there are some additional sources available in some other tool. So you have to be very judicious. Moreover, some of the sources cover only certain type of documents. You must be very much clear which type of documents you are going to include. Suppose you have to cover patents. in um, chemistry field, you have one particular search tool. SciFinder is all that you require. But in other subjects, different bibliographical tools don't cover patents, don't cover thesis and dissertations. So for specific sources, you can have some specific search tools. For other sources, you can have some general search tools that you have to decide on the basis of your topic. Once you have collected the required literature, then next stage is effective note taking. Of course, from here, the role of reference management systems starts. But I feel that that is only a technical aspect. Conceptually, you must be very, very much clear. And still, many of the people, I myself do this, and I'm not sure how many of my generation are still adapt to doing these things. We take a printout of a research paper, we have to review, then identify key features. For a doctoral candidate, since there are to be quite a large number of resources, then generally the practice is to make some brief notes in the front page of that paper. Those notes may be either pattern notes or hierarchical notes. Pattern notes are generally done like this. On a particular, suppose that paper deals with a particular facet, and certain sub facets are also covered. So facet will be written in center and sub facets will be written outside it, related to it. So that when you are preparing your informative abstract, at that time, this will help you that for this particular facet, you will be consulting this paper. For another facet, you have to consult another paper. If you are doing all this in your paper in soft copy, then you can highlight the text which you have to make use of. And in the beginning of that paper, you can note down the facets and subfacets. Once you have acquired some experience in this field, then you can directly start writing the informative abstract. And now, this full informative abstract, this is again an issue that I want to discuss with you, because I have seen many times in doctoral dissertations or doctoral thesis, people are not able to properly write the required things. Everybody studies abstract making, how to prepare an abstract, what is the content of an abstract, what is to be written over there, objective, method, results, and conclusion, very clear. But how to write these things, it becomes very difficult for to understand, because in certain topics you need to only discuss the findings and conclusion. In certain cases you need to discuss the method also. In certain cases you need to discuss the objective in a different way. In certain cases you have to describe the data in a simple way, but in certain other cases you have to describe data, and that should be in a little detail. Like, suppose you are writing in a review, someone is saying not clear.
No, it's perfectly all right, Professor Joshi.
Okay, suppose you are writing a review of some bibliometric study. In that case, if you are doing writing review of a bibliometric study of doctoral dissertations of a particular university, then name of university and subject need to be there. But if you are writing bibliometric study, reviewing bibliometric study of some journals, and a large number of journals are there in a particular subject will be sufficient. You need not cite specific journals. But if one or two journals are there, then you have to name the journals. Similarly, sometimes what happens that particularly in case of some statistical information like mean scores, people simply say that this was the most preferred issue variable with a mean score of this. This mean score doesn't communicate anything. There should be a clear writing about what was the range. Suppose the range was from 0 to 4. The mean score will be different. The range was from 1 to 5. It will be different. If the range is 20, there are certain studies which solicit opinion on a continuum between two extreme points on a 20-point scale. Then mean score will be different. So you have to state the range also. Otherwise, that mean score will be misleading. In one case, mean score comes 3 point something. In another case, the mean score comes 4 point something. What is the range? And maybe that response on 3 point something is greater than the response on 4 point something because the scale is different. So you have to be very clear and you must understand what you are going to convey there. It should be conveyed in the similar way. Otherwise, it may be misleading. Well, in certain cases, you can write your comments also in terms of comparison, contrast, contribution or failure to contribute. Sometimes certain very important issues are missed in a particular study. So those things can be written, but in doctoral studies, generally, these things are on a particular study, these things are not written. Then we come to writing aspect. We have already discussed descriptive versus critical issue. Then writing of review has different approaches. In certain studies, we have dedicated chapters of literature review, or in one chapter, a particular part is dedicated to literature review. In certain studies, the facet analysis is done, and on each facet, literature review is given with that facet. In case studies, literature review is given with each case. There is no general literature review, but it is given. Suppose 2 or 3, 4 cases are there. So in that case, with each case, when you are developing the concept of that case, then literature is cited simultaneously. But generally, the approach is to have either one chapter or one particular part of a chapter dedicated to literature review. Another important issue is faceted versus unitary approach. It is generally considered that you must have a facet analysis of your doctoral topic, and then on each facet, whatever studies you have reviewed, each study is to be covered under that particular facet. But in practice, I have seen many studies which adopt this unitary approach. The complete abstract of a particular study is written at one place, and in certain cases, very strange, but we have to bear it. Review of first study up to last study is given in one sequence. There is no order, nothing at all. Such type of literature reviews are also done in certain cases, but definitely it is it should be considered that faceted approach is always good. Now, presentation aspect, structuring the review. Broadly, these are four main uh, headings of a literature review. Introduction may or may not be there, but introduction, some content is to be there. You may not write an introduction. Main body of review, and then summary or conclusion, or sometimes inferences term is used. And last part is studies reviewed or references. Now, what should be in the introduction? Introduction of a literature review, whether it is an independent review or it is a part of a research study like doctoral thesis, that there should be at least one or two paragraphs which introduce the topic of literature review. And there are, while you are collecting studies, you might come across certain um, general features. Those general features, without looking into the problem, without going into the content of the reviewed documents, generally during your collection of documents, whatever general trend you are able to identify, those general trends are stated here. And then scope of the review and presentation style and sequence, how you have presented that. These two aspects, means first is general introduction of that topic, highlighting the main features related to that particular topic, and second is your how you have structured that review. These two aspects are to be there. I've given some examples of some doctoral uh, studies from Kurukshetra University. One is there. This is more visible, more clear. This is of library information science. See, in the second paragraph, how the review is structured, it is made very clear. Now, internal structure of a review. How the main body of review is to be written. Internal structure is an art as well as science. Science is that there are some guidelines that it should be structured, it should have some facet analysis, and on each facets, some representative studies should be reviewed. The art is that there cannot be prescribed one particular style. A style may be different, and that style is decided by the writer himself, reviewer himself. In certain topics, you may write review in a particular style. Content will be same, but presentation style will be a bit different. So it should be organized into different facets, subfacets, and then within one subfacet, if you are reviewing 5 or 6 studies, this should not be in a hazard way. All those 5 or 6 studies should be in a proper sequence, in a proper order, and that order may be anything. It may be chronological. At the lowest level, it may be chronological, but it may be geographical. It may be according to a particular relationship. Like if results are in a particular sequence, then it can be there. If different methods are covered, those methods may be there. If different theories are covered, they may be in that order. So some sort of order
some
should
sort of order should
be
some
there.
sort of order should be there.
Another aspect is style of writing. Uh, this is not very important, but generally in doctoral studies, what we see that we highlight the person who has conducted a study, and then a brief about subject and findings and conclusion. In state of the art report or in some science disciplines, they adopt a different approach. They follow the state of the art report type of style, that developments are highlighted, and the person who reported those developments, they are given in bracket, and developments are highlighted. Like here you can see, it is again a library sciences study. Facet analysis, complete facet analysis of literature review is given on the left side. Introduction, faculty librarian contact, outside library, inside library, library services, education. All these phases means the review is structured in this way. Or on a particular sub-facet, review can be written in this way. When we are writing reviews in this particular style, then there are to be and then we are referring a particular study more than one time, more than once. It may be 5, 6 times. If there is a very comprehensive study and it covers almost all facets, that study can be referred in all the facets. But in each facet, only that part of study will be covered. And when we are beginning, at the very first study, at the first instance of referring that study, we will be giving maximum possible information about this. And later on, we can briefly explain it. These are the studies of economics and physics. See, in physics study, first the style is followed of a state-of-the-art report type, and later on the general author highlighting is there. In certain cases, I've seen that author's name is written in bold. It is not required. Author is not important. What work that person has done, that is important. But if we are highlighting the author's name, that is, I think, not required. Then summary. And these days now, conclusion term is frequently used in all disciplines. Sometimes inferences term is used. At the end of the review, you have to summarize the contribution of significant studies. You have to identify significant studies, summarize their contributions, and if there is some indication regarding theory, methodology, some sort of inconsistency or some sort of gaps are identified, then those inconsistency and gaps are to be mentioned. And if there is some indication regarding some general theory of that subject at large, that is to be mentioned here. Like in this conclusion, see, I have underlined some important aspects. That faculty librarian contact takes place more in smaller settings than the larger university. However, in universities, experienced faculty has more opportunities of frequently meeting the librarians than relatively less experienced faculty. And these are the major findings in different studies which have been reviewed in this review of literature. Now let us come to the last part, and I will not be discussing in detail these aspects, only a brief reference of it, because a number of reference management softwares are now available, and you might have attended many webinars on reference management software use. So that aspect can be taken up in detail in some other representation. Referencing system is in different subjects used in three different ways. These days, we are preferring Harvard style, which is author and year style, in text citation, and then an alphabetical list with author surname in the last part, references. Numerical system
Numerical system.
is more common in science and technology, and they number each reference, and they don't give in detail. Footnote and endnotes system is more common in literature. They give the reference or the note about something discussed in the text on the bottom of that particular page. And then at the end, you may have a full-fledged bibliography. Sometimes footnotes are numbered. And if footnotes are numbered, then in the very first reference of that footnote, they give complete bibliographical information, and later on, they simply give offset or IBID type of references and page number. And in the end, there is no particular bibliography because they are giving full bibliographical information simultaneously. These are different approaches adopted in different subjects. In fact, approach may be any number of approaches, because there are some particular publications which are giving author year plus reference number. So all these things are being practiced, but what we are using in doctoral thesis, either first one or second approach. And lastly, style manuals. A number of style manuals, everybody is aware of these style manuals, and very good number of referencing systems are available online and offline, and note mainly even MS Word has got very good features. So bibliography can be compiled, and these days you need not remember the provisions of different style manuals. Your software can take this responsibility. Even if you are not using any particular software, you can use the features provided by MS Word. MS Word is providing bibliographical features in a nice way. So with this, we come to our discussion, and if there are any queries, we'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Professor Joshi, for your highly informative talk, especially in the context of information generation, because it's a part of information generation. And it's a continuous process also, as far as literature review is concerned. It's a continuous process. We always carry out the research work even after doing our PhD or DLit or even other things. So may I now request the participants any question answer session? Any questions if you have to ask?
If you have to ask.
Yeah, Preeti,
जी सर.
can you hear me?
Yes sir, आप सर अपना वो वीडियो
Yes,
कर
आप
लीजिएगा.
सर अपना वो वीडियो कर लीजिएगा.
हाँ जी,
वीडियो कर लीजिएगा ऑन अपना.
वीडियो कर लीजिएगा ऑन अपना.
वीडियो कर लेते हैं.
एनीवे सर आप बताइएगा. Can you hear me, sir?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So my question to Dr. Joshi is, if she could briefly again tell the students what is the importance of theory, or what's the importance of fixing one's research focus into the abstract theory. That will be helpful for the students, because I think the students or the researchers are not clear about what is the importance of theory and what is the significance of fixing one's central question and objectives into that theory of the work already done.
टिकट होगी क्या आपकी टिकट टूटी
So that's my question.
तो देती
Yes,
हाँ,
yes.
हाँ,
May I request the participants please mute?
May I request the participants?
Aarti Chaudhary,
Aarti Chaudhary,
Balian Chevan 11, please mute yourself.
711, please mute yourself.
रेनू बाला
Renu Bala, Dr. Renu Bala, please mute yourself. Let us go ahead with the question answer session.
Please mute yourself. Let us go ahead with the question
she
answer
also
session.
seems to have her phone nearby, so that is why
She
there is an
also
issue.
seems to have her phone nearby, so that is why there is an issue.
Good afternoon, Professor Jagta Singh. Sir,
चलो
I think you can better answer this question than me. I feel that when we are deciding a particular topic, if we understand the different theories available in that particular field,
मास्क है ना पहना हुआ
we can plan our study in that way so that different aspects proposed by that particular theory can be investigated in our study. Like particular different models are presented, or different
अब चल गया
models are presented in bibliomatics. Bibliomatic laws are there. If we are planning our study to simply apply a particular law on a particular subject, then we have to plan our study in that way. If we are not, we are simply deciding our topic without any consideration of theory, and later on trying to relate it to that theory. Of course, it can be done, but this will be a bit difficult because we are not able to cover all the facets, all the requirements posed for testing the application of a particular theory, unless we have beforehand decided that we are going to investigate the application of this particular theory. Am I clear, sir?
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was saying, that people must know that abstraction theory is the abstraction theory is the base into which we have to fix our research. That is the
Yes.
context. If the context is not clear, then neither your central question nor your targets will be addressed and correlated properly. That was what I wanted to be so clear to the students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And I am very disappointed, sir, that across any significant study, in particularly doctoral research, where the person had started, of course, some attempts are there, but not very successful. but the person had in the planning of that study some particular theory in mind that I will be investigating
Yeah,
the foundation of this theory.
that I do agree with you. It is simply copying and pasting without knowing what is the purpose of the review of literature. They
Yes.
must understand that review of literature is the base from where we are looking back, what has already been done and where we are starting, and how our research work is correlating with that. It's just a relay race, and we have to take forward either modification of knowledge or extension of knowledge. So that is the purpose. I think for that in future we need a training workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Jagtar. Before I take up the next question, may I request Professor Rupak to check up the link because a number of people are saying there's something wrong with the link. Please correct it if there is anything wrong. So, yes, any other question, please?
Ma'am, Mr. Tarun Pal Gandhi has given a question, but he's
Yes.
given it in chat.
Yes,
So
yes.
I
you
will
can-
read out the question.
Yeah, you can ask that question, please.
What about parallel study? If the same study is going on in some other part of the world, then it becomes very difficult for us to decide the topic of the study, as there is no such mechanism till date developed to check this. In that situation, how can we decide the study topic wisely? Thank you.
Thank you for this very interesting question. And this is very important also. Actually, in science age, as I earlier discussed, that the phenomena is universal in nature. If the problem has been investigated at some place, the same results can be applied here. Of course, in science also these days, the problem of verification of results of a study is there. Recently, a survey of researchers, that survey was published in Nature. Almost 90% researchers in different disciplines of science were of the view that these days many studies are being reported, even in science, whose results cannot be confirmed, cannot be verified. Otherwise, if the same study is repeated in same setting at some different place, it should have the same results. But in social sciences, when we talk of social sciences, this should not be a major problem because so in social sciences, when our study population or respondents are different, there are definitely going to be different results. As I earlier said that the results of Delhi University may not be applicable to results of Kurukshetra University, the same phenomena in Kurukshetra University, because students and their information behavior in Delhi University is different. Students and information behavior of some Western university is totally different than information behavior of our university. That's why in social science, literature review is a continuous process, starting with the beginning of the topic, thinking of that topic, up to date of submission of the report. Yes, of course, the same population should not be studied. If there are some differences, then it can be repeated. Yes, any other question?
Any other question, please? Is there any other
Hello.
question? Yes.
Hello. Madam, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Please go ahead with the question.
Madam, actually, I am a research scholar from Usman University. I am doing scientometric analysis of Harvard Business Review for 10 years.
Okay.
So, 2009 to 19. So, in review of literature, should I take last 2 years or even before that articles also?
Over to Professor Joshi.
I'm not able to listen to question properly.
Could you please clarify your question, please? You were
Sir,
talking
good.
about yes.
Sir, my question is, I am doing research on a scientometric analysis of Harvard Business Review 10 years, 2009 to 19, 2019, sir. So, in review of literature, should I take the articles last 2 years, or before that also I can take?
Oh,
Can I take
okay.
or let?
Specific period is to be decided in consultation with your supervisor. No clear period can be decided here.
Okay, sir. So my general question is, in literature review, should we take the latest articles which is published recently, or previous also we can take?
Well, when you have to study the trend, then previous research is very
Yes.
important. Only then you are able to identify the trend in that particular field.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, participants. I hope there is no other question. I want to thank Professor Joshi for accepting my request to deliver the talk on review of literature, which is a very important aspect of any research. I'm also thankful to Professor Jagtar Singh for his august presence today. We are highly obliged to you, sir. I also thank all the participants for being here with us. I thank the Punjab University authorities which have given us the permission to host this webinar series. I also thank my colleagues, research scholars, and students without whose support it would have been possible for me to hold this webinar series. Once again, we'll be sharing our next webinar information as permitted by the authorities in the different WhatsApp groups or other platforms. Until then, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.